Hi everyone, good morning. So I'm doing my next point on this book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by New York Times best-selling author John C. Maxwell. I'm a speaker with the team and I'm doing this to build up a business and to get opportunities to help with speaking and training in organizations. And the law of the picture is one that John focused on, and there's good points about how he's letting us know that great leaders always seem to embody seemingly disparate qualities. They're highly visionary and highly practical. So you'll find that for us who are coming into Canada as migrants, we don't have to think that we don't know anything. There's a lot we're bringing to the table, and the examples that I'm going to draw upon are from when I lived and worked in South Africa, in England, in Zimbabwe. I worked in human resources. So you'll find that the best HR people are the people that actually get to work in the business. And what we did in our organizations there is HR didn't just plan and implement HR programs and policies and just give the policies to the business. We actually had to work in the business, so we understood where the problems were, where the pain points were, and that helps you if you have that business experience and you're actually doing the work alongside the employees. It doesn't help you if you're just saying, oh, this is the right way to do it, this is the law, this is what the law is saying you have to do, because you can't teach ethics that way. The laws are there, but very few companies follow them. Very few companies do it. They follow what the business leaders want. And sometimes that leads to injustice in how people get treated. So you can draw on that as one point. The other point is for the companies I've worked with here. I've always been in the business, so I've been applying my HR skills within the business. I haven't been doing purely HR. I've been applying it in project management, in administration, in supporting senior executives. Whether it's in reception work or in other work, I've been applying those HR skills and working in the interest of the public. So when you think about working in your field, I know that people say, oh, well, your skills are all wasted because you're not actually using them. But I do apply them in the positions that I have. And it's the same thing with our volunteering. I've done a lot of volunteering in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in England, here in Canada as well. I don't just talk about the poor and talk about the homeless. I go out and I help. I help at soup kitchens. I help at coldest night of the year when they ask me to. I help in the church. So I'm not just putting myself above people. And that's what Jesus did. When people came to him, it was because they saw he had a better way. He had a different way of doing things. He wasn't telling them, yes, carry on going on being prostitutes, and yes, there's no other work available, so let's make prostitution legal. And oh, there's exceptions to this. Let's just help these people to carry on sinning. He wasn't doing that. And in today's world, people don't like that message. But it's just the reality. That's what our Bible teaches us. So I don't see myself as better than others. There's a lot of people that are much better than me, better people than me, and that model the values better than me. My late grandfather and my dad being some of the examples that I can use. Because even when I was small, they used to take me out with them when they used to go out to feed the hungry, to give clothes, to give blankets. And I was very, very small. But I wasn't frightened because I was with them. And I knew that nobody would harm us because we were there to do good. Today, you can't take that chance and go out to places unless you're going in a group, because you could get attacked, you could get murdered, you could get your car stolen, you could get hijacked. We didn't have that problem in Zimbabwe. So it's a different situation now, and we have to learn how to make situational decisions. And the other point that John Maxwell makes, if you look at a lot of the job descriptions today, they'll say, oh, you must follow the chain of command. But John Maxwell says you have to be able to persuade, not command. And I've experienced that in a lot of organizations. They don't persuade, they command. So it's very different. And if you're working alongside your people and you're doing the work with them, you won't be able to command, because you'll know how hard it is for them. You'll know what the difficulties are, what they are going through. So some organizations have a model where the CEO or the senior executives or whoever, they will come onto the floor, onto the workshops in Canada. But they're very few and far between. Whereas where I worked in the different countries outside of here, it's the norm, it's not the exception. So we have to remember that as well. And then also with the law of the picture, when we're modeling it, we know that people are watching us, they're watching what is happening to us. And often I'll hear people, even on the training that I go into, when I do these lunchtime sessions, people know who I am and they're like, oh, what happened? She was doing very well. How come they let her go? Well, what happened is that they didn't put me first. They put other people first, and they didn't really care whether I was going to be there or not. So that's what happened. And it's the same thing as what happened with EY, what happened with TD, what happened with Credit Suisse. The numbers mattered more than caring about the organization and the future. So nobody knows what the future is going to bring. But if we're doing the right things now, hopefully in the future things will be better, not for this to continue happening, what's happening to us. Because you can't teach ethics. I mean, if people are going to cheat on exams to get those top jobs at EY, and they're going to, I mean, even if you do Primerica, they'll teach you training strategies for your tests, and they do it in America. They do it for the universities, they do it for Primerica. They tell you, like, when you're doing these multiple choice questions, there's an algorithm that is used. So most likely the answer is going to be C, or most likely the answer is going to be D. So, I mean, really and truly, if they're teaching people things like that, someone like me will go in and we'll do a test, and we most likely won't pass it because we want to know what we're doing, we want to learn, and we want to give the best service. But other people who know the strategies, who know how to answer those questions, who know, like, okay, so most likely out of these three, it's most likely to be this one, they'll pass the test, obviously. They'll get into the good schools like Harvard and, well, I don't know, whatever, MIT and all these places. That doesn't mean I'm stupid. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable of doing a good job. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable of getting the best scores. What it means is that the system is set up against me. And also, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Zimbabwe. I went to schools under the British system. And then I went to South Africa. So my values are very different values to those that are here. Because sometimes they say, like, when you apply for jobs, they want you to tick off, do you have a disability? What race are you? What background are you? Do you speak another language? Those things can also be used to hurt you as well as to help you, because they're not looking at it for us, they're looking at it for the organization in North America. They're looking at it from what do they need for that organization at that time. And we don't know because we are not insiders. We don't know what they're actually looking for. So we can only do our resumes, our cover letters to the best of our ability, speak to our experience, and then the rest is in God's hands. We can't do more than that, and that's what I have done. Even with my ministry work here, I haven't said, oh, I'm a spiritual director and I'm just going to sit at home. I've gone out to soup kitchens. I've gone out to feed the hungry. When I see people on the street, I'll give them a muffin or a coffee, and sometimes they're not even thankful. They don't they're like, I told you that I don't want this. I want money so I can go and get a room for the night. But sometimes I don't have the money to give them. So I don't say anything. I just tell them, you know what, I'm also not working. So this is all that I can do for you. And if you don't want it, then I'll take it back. And then they're like, no, it's okay. So it's a different culture here. I've never experienced that with we had a lot of homeless people in Zimbabwe, a lot of blind people, a lot of beggars. We used to put a bucket of water at the entrance to our shop with a cup so people could have water to drink. I've never experienced somebody telling me something like that when I'm doing something nice for them. But that's how it is here. So you have to get used to these things. And then we also have to, or at least what I do, I work on looking at myself, looking at how I can change, where I can improve, what it is that I need to do to adapt. Because that's the only way I can survive in this country. Because I'm not going to all the things that I did in Zimbabwe with my family and my cousins and all that. I'm not going to the black tie events and the big balls that we had and the school events where we have people, the children giving their speeches, and I'm not a dignitary. I don't get invited to speak at those kind of events and those kind of things. Whereas back home we had that. So yes, I aspire to those things, because if we could do it there, I don't see why we can't do it here. But it's a process, and it takes a long time, because back there we were third generation, whereas here we're first generation. So I don't expect things to change overnight, but after 22 years, I also don't expect people to put me back into minimum wage all the time, because that means they don't value me. Because I've worked hard, I've proven myself, not only in the community here, but also in the workplaces. So I tell them, I'm not interested in minimum wage. I can't even make my ends meet on minimum wage. And I've also got my mom to think of and my family. So just because I'm not married doesn't mean I don't have family to think of. People think because you're single that, oh yeah, they can just do whatever they want with you and they'll let you go first. But they don't take into account that you're a caregiver, that you have other people to think of. And it's not only with companies, it's even with relatives. So I push back now. And they don't like it. They're like, oh yeah, you know what, you're part of the family now because you argued. I said, yeah, you know what? Because when I come as a guest, you don't treat me properly. You don't speak to me properly. And also, you're younger than me. So if you want me to just take it, I'm not going to take it. Because for many, many years I did. I used to just keep quiet, not say anything, and they would get all the favor. So I'm like, you know what? It's my turn. I also want the favor. I want the exceptions. I want the investment in me, because I've done more than my share of investing in myself. And I want people to invest in me. I want people to spend time with me. I want to be treated properly. I want people to help me with my coat. That's what I had in Zimbabwe. So if I've proven myself here, why can't I have it here? Or in America? Or in somewhere else? I got treated properly in England. I didn't get treated the way I get treated here. That's why it's so hard for me. Because people treat me despicably. And I don't like it. Even as a spiritual director, they don't treat me with the respect I deserve. And I am worthy of respect. Just like everybody else, and just like I treat people with respect, I am worthy of respect. And sometimes it's the children. So I also push back now, because I do the work on myself, and if people want, I can help them. I can help with speaking, I can help with training, but I don't just sit back and say, oh yeah, you do it. And oh, I'm not going to go and help those homeless people or serve the poor, or I don't do that. So I try to model it. I try to model the law of the picture. So that's for today. And just remember, if you're a migrant, you're coming into the country. And also people criticize the political leaders like Trump and some other leaders. They also married to immigrants. They also married to people who came here legally. And for me, that's what I want. If I had to do it legally, other people must also do it legally. It was hard for me. I had to sacrifice to put in those papers to come here. Nobody did it for me. Nobody helped me. People could have helped me if they wanted to, but they didn't. Nobody vouched for me. So people must do it legally. It's the right thing to do for Canada. The same with these banks and with everything that's happening now. They should be doing the right thing. But they're not. And so now the country's starting to implode. And who are they going to blame? Me? It's not my fault. I'm not leading the banks. I don't have a job paying over $70,000 a year in the banks and vested shares and all the special treatment to go to healthcare. There are healthcare places here in Canada where you have to pay $25,000 for the year. I know because I called some of these places trying to get work in administration, and they told me. And I said, oh, if you want to come here for healthcare, you have to pay $25,000 upfront. That's what the executives get in Canada. They get paid gym memberships, they get vested shares, they get access to the best country clubs. And with some of them, it's not that they've earned it. They've had people open doors for them. They've had people there to mentor them, to guide them. I didn't have that. So that's why I'm doing things like John Maxwell. I'm taking lunch and learn courses through HRPA because nobody's willing to help me and nobody's willing to do it. Nobody's willing to say, hey, that's my niece and she came here from Zimbabwe and look at what she's accomplished and she's looking for a senior level position in the banks. Would you be able to help her? I had to do it for myself. When I got that job at TD, I had to speak to the SVP of HR myself and tell him, I know I'm here on a temporary basis, but I'm looking for something permanent and I can't get anything. Could you please help me? I had to do it. Nobody did it for me. The agencies didn't do it. So we also have to do it for ourselves because no one's coming to rescue us and nobody's going to help us. It's just the reality. We have to do it for ourselves and we have to model it for others the same way Jesus modeled it. So they can say, hey, you know what, that's a better way of life than dealing in drugs and trafficking men and women and trafficking children and bringing all the filth into our companies and organizations and laundering money through gift cards. That's the way we have to do it, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's easier to join the drug cartels and join in the filth and join in the crime and get the easy money. That's easier.